I became involved in the redress movement in 1988, just after I finished my second year law school. And I was hired by CCNC as a summer student. But about 2 weeks after I started working there, the executive director quit her job and I became the acting ED. And it was the height of the redress movement. I had to help put together the campaign materials. And at the end of summer, I was invited by the board of CCNC Toronto chapter, joined them. And a year later, I became the CCNC Toronto chapter's president. So I continued to be involved for the next several years. December 2004, the then Minister of Multiculturalism, Sheila Feinstein, announced in the House that the Chrétien government would not apologize or redress for any of the historical wrong against any of the ethno-racial communities, including the Chinese Canadian community. So that basically put an end to the first 10 years of CCNC efforts to redress. And at that time, I have already stepped down from CCNC Toronto chapter, but I was the executive director of the legal clinic. And through the clinic, I made an application for funding to launch a charter challenge in the form of a class action lawsuit to force the government to apologize and to provide compensation. In order to have a class action lawsuit, we need to have lead representatives for both the head taxpayers, widows, as well as the descendants. So I remember at that time I was still living in the north end of Toronto. I had to take a bus every day to the subway. And from time to time, I saw this elderly Chinese man walking with 2 canes on the bus, taking the same bus as me. And I thought to myself, I bet he's a head taxpayer, like, he's old enough to be a head taxpayer. And then, lo and behold, sometime after that, I ran into a friend of mine. I was talking about the head tax issue. Turns out that that man I saw on the bus was her grandfather. So through our friend, we convinced Mr. Shak Jang Mak to agree to be our plaintiff representing the head taxpayer. Apart from keeping the redress movement alive, the day after we lost the lawsuit at the Ontario court, for the first time, the Globe and Mail actually printed a front page story about the head tax issue and issued an editorial supporting not only apology, but also monetary compensation for the head taxpayers. So that was like the first time ever we got this endorsement from one of the largest papers in Canada. Ultimately, the victory was won not through the court, but through the political system. And as a lawyer, I have to say that I believe that our legal system and our court system has failed our Chinese Canadian pioneers. For years, the law was used as a tool deliberately to discriminate against Chinese. And when it came time for the court to right these historical wrongs, they did not have the courage to do so. So few of the head taxpayers and widows lived long enough to see justice in their lifetime. So, and I remember meeting many of them from the first time I went to a meeting in Toronto. There were like thousands of head taxpayers and widows who came out to a meeting, to June 22nd, 2006, when the apology was issued in the House of Commons. There were maybe a dozen left, to see this, and I have come to know many of them, and I even received a marriage proposal from one of the head taxpayer on behalf of his grandson. So what really touched me was that the fact that these people, despite all the suffering that they had endured, they still had faith in Canada, and they still have faith that one day they will see justice, and they've put their faith on me. We have to insist that both the government, the parliament, as well as our court system respect the human rights of all of us, regardless of our background, our race, gender, and that we're deserving of the equal respect, as anybody else who live in this country.